Cool. We're recording. Well, hey guys. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Amy Brower. I am a casting director based out of Columbia, South Carolina, and I've been casting professionally for a while. My company, Brower Casting, launched in 2019 quietly, and then kind of like took off in 2020. And I got into this industry as an actor first. That was my kind of gateway into, it's like, because they'll let you in if you just show up sometimes. You're like, I'll do it. So it was acting and then producing, and worked myself into some other roles, and casting was one of them. So I kind of fell into casting. Another part of my recent professional story is I worked in talent management with a company based out of New York. It was an all-female run team. So I was managing professional actors in New York and LA. So that was an incredibly educational experience for me, somebody who's kind of been in this like comfortable bubble of the Southeast for a hot minute. So I have a very different perspective than I did just a few years ago, and I'm really grateful for that. But my goal for today is to make everything really practical, really helpful, and I want to give you guys as much freedom as possible to answer, ask those questions that maybe you have in your head, just from like, and have it from a different perspective. And for the record, casting wants different things from you based on the project, based on the city, based on the casting director. So I'm not speaking for all people. I'm speaking from my own experience. So hopefully some of this is helpful. But I just want to start at the very, very, very beginning. I know a lot of us here have experience. We have working actors in the room. We have people that are doing this on a regular basis and are really kind of plugged in to their local film community and even working in some other markets. But for those of you who are just getting started, I had some questions come in about that, and I want to address the one that just came in, which was for the newer actors and who are just getting started in this industry, do we work for free when we get started? And how much should I be paying for headshots when I'm getting started? The answer is zero. So if you are doing background, they don't want a professional headshot. They want a cell phone photo. And there are right ways and wrong ways to do a cell phone photo. I have examples, and I'm scared to show them because they're not even like the worst ones, and you guys might actually know some of these people. So I'm like a little like, I don't want to call anybody out, but typically for background, you are creating an environment. So I hate to say it, it has nothing to do with talent. It has to do with how you look, where you're located, and your professionalism. That's it. So if you fit the picture of what they're looking for, and you're the right size and shape and color and all those things, then they're going to place you in that environment and to create that environment. So really you need two pictures for background. Blank background, decent lighting. Natural lighting is always best. The worst lighting ever is like in a public bathroom. I get those all the time. Y'all, I know I have to say this. I know it's so tempting to take an amazing selfie in your car because you have 3-point lighting. Can we please not do that anymore? Find a window, because the seatbelt and the window and everything is very distracting. So really just two things. It's this and then full body. Occasionally they want you to timestamp it. They might want you to hold up something that says the date and time. And that's just verification for casting that says, this is what I look like right now. So for men, it's like your facial hair, huge deal. They have to know what that looks like. So that's why they ask for a recent photo, but you should be spending $0 on photos for background. Okay. All these questions are coming in.
But presumably, Amy, if you have headshots,
yes,
then that's okay. You don't have to go and grab your phone and do that.
Well, for background, they want recent. They want really, really recent. And for background, the headshot is it tells a different story. And a lot of times headshots capture who, like a character, and it has kind of like main character energy. So some casting directors see that and they see it as competition because they don't want you to pull focus. So definitely have a professional headshot, but I don't recommend submitting a professional headshot alone for background, maybe with a recent cell phone picture. If you have to do a selfie because you don't have a stand or you're outside or whatever, I mean, you can go as far away as possible, then crop in so we can't see your arm out here. But a lot of people will hold their phone very close, and the lens, as you guys know, distorts what your face looks like. So just have a friend or a stack of books and do your shoulders up and your full body. That's just for background, okay? Yeah, so don't spend any money on that, please. And then, yeah, and it says, please don't submit headshots. That I personally, when I cast background, I don't want to see any professional headshots. When I do want to see a professional headshot is for my OCP featured roles and above. So a featured role, I do a lot of featured non-speaking in the commercial space. These, there's a little bit of a gray area. I love a professional headshot if it's recent for featured. It doesn't have to be professional. If it's a really good cell phone photo in portrait mode where, you know, that can work. The rule for that, and I will mention this for background as well, there's two kind of worlds with all this. So there's commercial space where everything is like Disney on ice and it's like, wait, everyone's happy. And then there's like theatrical, dramatic stuff like that. So for commercial, we want to see you smile. We want to see teeth. You know, if it's like, if you're submitting for a big movie and you're playing like townsperson number 5, a neutral expression is perfectly fine. But if it's like, if they're selling something, a smile goes a long way. If you're submitting for a featured role, in a commercial space or a comedy, we got to see all your teeth. It's just a rule. We have to see it. And if it's not, then there's a bunch of different shades and colors to that. So if you're just getting started, baseline, above background for featured, we have, we want a smiling picture and we want a dramatic picture, without going too much into character space, but just as much as you can, as much as authentically you. It needs to be an easy sell for me. Something I will mention, casting directors, we have a lot of, we're pretty open-minded. So we have an imagination and we can imagine people in all these different roles. Directors have almost none, especially if they're in a bigger market. The smaller the market they're in, the more flexible they might be. But a lot of times, like the further you go up the ladder, the least imagination they have because they just believe the right person is out there. So don't try to squeeze yourself into something you're not. Like really try to tap into who you are and what you bring to the table as yourself. This isn't like high school theater where they're like, oh, she could play 90 because she could, like a wig and a cane. Like we're not doing that. Like you need to show up as yourself. And that means having a really honest perspective on who you are. What is your actual age range? Can you play corporate? Can you play blue collar? Can you play, like, let's just be truthful with ourselves. And if that's hard, then ask a friend, someone you trust, and just be like, do I actually look 17 or am I just like fooling myself? So just have a really honest conversation with yourself. Let's see here. I'm just checking in to see if there's any questions. Okay. Professional headshots. These become really, really, really important when you're going for those featured roles. And then when you're going into other spaces, like if you're marketing yourself on legit sites like Actors Access, casting networks, Backstage can be legit. Please look up stuff. They don't have the same vetting process as the other sites. So sometimes you can find great stuff. Sometimes it's tricky. So and just something else for the newer people, if somebody is charging you to audition and it's not a legitimate site like Actors Access, and I know I hate that they do that because they need you to do this stuff, but that's how those companies, keep their lights on. There should never be a cost to audition unless it's like if you don't have the yearly membership and you have to pay to submit your tape. But there should be no cost to, like, don't fall for some scammy something where, there's just a lot of casting sites that are not legit. So please do your research. If you have questions, please let me know. I'm going to pause there for a second. Any questions about background featured stuff? I know that's kind of straightforward, but I figured we're kind of moving beyond that. I do want to talk about, there's this big pivotal moment that happens when you go from representing yourself as an actor to when you're working with an agent or a manager. The rules change and the bar is raised. So I'm just curious. I know there's a few of you, like, I guess if anybody is working with an agent already, I know there's like at least a handful of y'all that have rep, which is wonderful. That stops being about you and it becomes about them being able to do their job. So when I was managing, we had a list of 15 approved photographers in New York and 15 approved photographers in LA, and our actors had to use those photographers. The reason for that is because we knew what worked in those markets. I feel like the rules are a little different in the Southeast. I think there's a little more flexibility, and it's not like this crazy thing because it's not as oversaturated as these bigger markets. But when casting is looking through like thousands of faces, there's these little tiny tweaks that they found work just to get attention, especially if you're in like a really competitive category. If you need me to clarify that, let me know. But if you're in a really competitive category, then it's like you just want to be seen. So the rules change. So if your agent says, hey, these are some really good photographers that I want you to work with, like, please listen to them because you're going to make their job easier. That's when things get more specific. That's when knowing your type is really important. That's when breaking it down into specific, because you're just trying to make their job easy. And again, like, directors have no imagination. So you want to be an easy sell of like, of course I'm this person. And so they can just kind of stand out and get that, because the goal was to get to the audition. That's the goal. Like, please see me and please just click the button that says send them a self-tape, like send me the sides. So that's a different thing. So there was a question that came through earlier, which is, what is the general rule for, like, how often do I actually need to be paying for these headshots? Because it is an investment. It is an investment. The rule is 18 to 24 months. And I know it's a little, yes, there's some flexibility, but after the 2-year mark, casting gets trust issues and we just don't know if that looks like you anymore. So the actors that I work with that are like on their A game, that is their general thing. If it's not too much, and like if it's an older headshot, I just assume that they haven't been working very much, you know, which is okay. But it says, okay, well, this is from someone that isn't prioritizing this specific area of their career right now. And I realize that it's money and it's time and it's all that. So it just depending on where you are, that investment has to be right for you. But if you're working with rep that is asking for new headshots, don't ignore that conversation and have a conversation. And if they are willing to give you, this is the, like with my clients, it was like, this is who you are. These are the shows and genres we're targeting. This is what we're going to do. And this is, you know, we talked about wardrobe and the whole vibe. So if that's part of the conversation, fantastic. If your agent is very hands off, find a coach, find somebody that has the time to really work with you on that, or do your own research, or a photographer that's super hands on. Those are awesome. I have a few that I can recommend. And just find someone that gets you and isn't just interested in taking a pretty picture. Because what a headshot is not is a pretty picture. It's not a portrait. It's not how pretty can I look in this picture. It's how do I show up as authentically as myself, or a version of myself in this picture. A couple things to look out for. Photographers who call themselves headshot photographers that don't actually do it for actors. They do like pretty pictures. Just watch out for that, because they're usually worried about lighting and composition and not about the light in your eyes, or like what kind of emotion or what story am I saying, all that stuff. Photographers that over edit their pictures. I should have mentioned this earlier for the background and the featured. Don't use a filter on any of your photos ever. We can tell. Please don't do it. We love you just the way you are. I swear to God. So absolutely no filters, no distracting lighting, no crazy backgrounds. Like, be you. That's for taking it yourself. Professionals, they should know better. But the vibe has to be there. So if you're self-submitting or you're submitting for a commercial, don't send me your really cool, sexy, like, I'm a Russian spy picture, because I can't do anything with that. Even though you're like the perfect person, I can't send that picture to my director. It needs to fit the world that I'm creating for them. You know what I mean? I'm talking a lot. Are there any questions before I go into some other stuff right now? I feel like I'm rambling.
Does the number, you say 18, 24 months, does that need to be sooner if you change your look in any significant way?
100%. Now, don't panic. Like, if you get highlights or something, like don't panic. You just have to submit a recent photo of your look. So it's like, here's my headshot, here's my hair. Like there's some forgiveness there. I'm personally pretty okay with that. But if this is your job, I would, by all means, yes, Rhodes, get those headshots when you change your look. Yeah, that's super, super important.
I would have this kind of practical approach, Amy. So, I mean, you're based in Colombia, so to avoid photographers who perhaps are like not theatrical headshot, commercial headshot specialists, any suggestions as to where we look or what we should look for on their website, or how we might be able to tell the difference?
Yeah, that's so tricky.
Other than your recommended list of
Absolutely. Yeah, I know, because I'm not sending anyone to New York right now. A lot of the people who are kind of up, like industry level people, a lot of them are based in Atlanta. I could bring somebody here if we wanted to do that. Now, there are a handful of people that do headshots and they're fine. They're fine for here. But if you're wanting to book out of Atlanta or book out of New York or book out of those bigger markets, then you will probably have to either go to them or they will have to come to you, because they can tell. And I'm really trying to, I'm not trying to like hurt anybody's feelings, but it's just, there's just some industry stuff. So to answer your question, Ian, the thing to look for is if they're not, especially if it's like a friend or someone that's like really good with a camera, if they're really open to collaborating with you on that and you know what it needs to look like and they're willing to kind of make those adjustments for you, I think that might be helpful, but it's kind of a rare, precious thing. And I've seen even really good headshots ruined by over editing, where and it's like, if it's overly polished, it's like I can't use that, and like really nobody can use it. It's just not going to be your friend. So let me work on that and see if I can come up with some stuff. There are a few people that have come into town for me specifically to do like a larger session.
So is it maybe better to, like you say, focus on an Atlanta professional rather than a local? Because a local might be right for the GSP upstate area, but won't work in Atlanta. But an Atlanta guy might work in GSP.
Yeah,
it just sense?
Yeah, it does. It really matters. It really depends on where you are career wise. If it's worth the investment because you are getting those opportunities, or you want more, if you're already in the room, that's when it's worth your time. If you're just getting started, like I said, even a really good cell phone picture will get you in the room for certain roles. But I will say, this is like a fun story time. I had a gentleman that I worked with in Charlotte. This is a few years ago. He was mostly behind the camera. So he had a lot of on-set experience, but very little on-camera experience as an actor. He did stunt work. And he was basically, and I scouted him for something because he just had a really good look. And I said, listen, send me a picture. And I got him in like a small featured non-speaking role in a commercial. And he loved it. And he was like, what do I have to do? I want to do this all the time. And I had a headshot photographer come in. They're based out of Atlanta. They have a LA connection as well. So we did like a headshot workshop a few years ago. He comes in, drops a couple $100. It was actually really, really affordable. Starts submitting with those photos. And I feel maybe it's his confidence or charisma or whatever, but these headshots, they basically bumped him to the top of the line. People saw his headshot and immediately assumed this guy's been working. Like he's been working. So he got opportunities like that were really kind of I mean, I was happily surprised, but but he went from the small role to like principal. Like he booked a principal role in a Goodwill campaign like 3 weeks later because of this headshot. And I was like, whoa, dude. I was like, good for you. Thank you for doing it right. But he had the work ethic to back it up. But that's a really easy way to get noticed, you guys. Just a really good headshot, because that's going to tell people just where you are in your career. or you might send the right message and it might send the wrong message.
What is a ripoff or things to look out for?
For headshots
Yes.
or just in general, there's so many ripoffs, dude. Any talent search thing is a ripoff. There are showcases that exist and there are real agents and real reps, but that's there. You don't have to do it that way. You can get an agent so many ways. There's open calls. You can get a referral. You don't need to do any, like, you don't need to pay $12,000 for, like any kind of Casablanca something. That is just, no, that's no. If an agency charges you an arm and a leg to sign, I would say $0. I know some of them now charge like $125 because of their database or whatever. I would say you never, ever, ever, ever pay an agent, ever. You pay them commission off of your work. So they make money when you make money. And if they're making money off you when you're not making money, then that means that's how they make money, which is not what an agent does. They get you work. So anyway, as far as headshots, anything that's like really overpriced for the region is a red flag. Just be careful about that. Or if somebody, again, who's not a headshot photographer that's trying to do like model-y shots and I don't know. If you find something that looks fishy, just email me. I will tell you straight up if it's legit.
Process, you talk about, people being collaborative. I mean, before you even get to the session, should they be spending an hour or a couple of hours or whatever just chewing the fat with you and figuring out who you are? I mean, is that normal? Is that what we should look for?
So yes and no. So photographers, they used to do that. That used to be industry standard, where they would get to know you, they would meet in person, they'd check vibe check, how do we feel about, how are you comfortable, all really good stuff. Their time is valuable as well. So I think the really experienced photographers, a lot of them charge for a marketing session prior to that, where they talk about your breakdowns, like what are you going out for, what markets are you in, all that, like what are your goals, like they really get down to it with you. Like my pal Jeremy out of Atlanta does that, and he's really, really good. It's not a requirement though. So a lot of times they just expect you to show up having done your homework with your with your wardrobe all ready to go, and then they just knock it out. So ideally, yes, you should definitely spend some time. I think what I was referring to earlier about collaborative is if you're trying to stay very local and build with your community, that's when you can, if it's just like a time or a travel, whatever constraint, that's kind of the workaround, but you're not guaranteed excellent work. It's sort of a cool experiment, and we hope for the best, so it's kind of risky, but I'm not discouraging people from trying, but it's just, I would protect your time and money, is what the thing is. And like New York headshots go like $1,000, man. It's super expensive up there. Atlanta, Charleston, you could go $350 to $500. That's pretty standard. LA, massive. I mean, there's a huge range of people. One of my favorite photographers was less than $300, and she did unlimited looks for an hour and a half, and she was amazing, but she's not everybody's person. Then there's another one who was like $900 for a lot of looks too. So it really depends. But I would love to do a headshot thing, like a headshot.
We're talking about looks, unlimited looks. I mean, coming out of a session at the end, and I don't want to dominate the conversation.
No, it's all very good.
How many looks? You need your commercial look and your theatrical look. I mean, do you, so once you get into theatrical, do you need a lawyer look and a cop look and a doctor look and all that malarkey that you see people do?
There's a lot of malarkey. A lot of it's in LA. So I don't think we have to play by those rules necessarily. I think we can be more general, but less than 5 isn't going to do you a whole lot of favors. I would have at least, I would have commercial and comedic, which is your light and bright and, like more character shots, which might feel silly, but that's important. And then you need to have at least 5 theatrical looks. In New York, in LA, my clients had 10, but that's because they're an incredibly saturated market. And I had to really cut through the noise with their stuff. You
Now,
know,
you think commercial and comedic are two separate looks, or they're kind of the same thing?
there's overlap. So the commercial is likable, trustworthy, warm, you know, that guy. The comedic is that, but you can it can be a little campier where they look at it and they're like, oh, this person's funny. Like they're funny. Like, and they can just see that you're funny. That guy is
Goofy dad look.
exactly. So it goes into goofy. So there's definitely overlap there. And a really solid commercial laugh smile can translate beautifully into comedy as well. But I like to have one that's comedy and then one that just pushes, or not comedy, commercial, and one that kind of pushes into that comedy space, which could even just be indicated by you know, it's just a little goofier, a really fun color, shirt, lighting. There's just it just tells it's a different channel. You know, it's a totally different channel than the other stuff. So your photographer should have multiple lighting setups. It should have a dramatic kind of moody one and then like a light and bright one. Like that's the ideal situation. And again, this is like when we're going for co-star, day player, all that stuff. When you're just getting started, you don't have to worry about it. You can lean into those a little bit, but by all means, those are not the rules. Like we don't have to do that right this second. There's time. When we go past that, like with the series regulars and stuff, and that's like up there, that's when you can get really, really specific. So instead of lawyer, this is the lawyer, the job done, but he does it in a shady way. Like you find the nuance in the character. And the trap is when you're going for co-stars and you're too specific and not in like because I hate to say it, but this is, and everyone knows this who's done it. Co-star roles are pretty much all stereotypes because they have to fill 5-10 seconds of content to move the story forward. And they're not the main, you know, so they're a supporting player that kind of moves it forward. So awesome gig, but it's not about you. It's about them. So if you're a waiter, you're a waiter. Are you a snarky waiter? Are you a polite waiter? Like you can't, you know, so you can be interesting, but you can't be too interesting. It's this very like fine line. But when you go past that, then you can get really specific. And that's when the marketing shifts a little bit and you just sort of laser in. But that again is always a conversation with your agent or manager because they want you to do that too. But we kind of have to build a little bit when we're talking about markets like Atlanta, New York, stuff like that. When we're talking about more regional stuff where it's people we know, and then there's more flexibility, it's more collaborative, it's more of a conversation, and that's a really, really, really awesome place to get started too, and build and create. And it's like we should always be doing that regardless of, you know, what we're doing. There's no point in, I'm a really, really big proponent, and don't wait for permission to do the thing that you love to do and you're really good at doing. So if you're not booking with your rep, create something. Like keep those muscles active and going. And it's really, really powerful stuff.
What do you mean when you say put you in?
Okay, great question. So agents and managers use Actors Access and casting networks and sites like that to submit you for stuff where they are literally sending your information in response to a casting call. So they'll see a breakdown, and you can do this yourself. Anybody can get on these sites and submit themselves. So you see a breakdown, female 25 to 35, you know, walking your dog, must like dogs, you know, whatever, you know, just something in there. And it's like it's like for a dog food commercial. So you submit, you would click exactly what you want casting to see. It goes, zoop, casting sees it, and then they respond to you if they want to see more, if they want to bring you in for an audition, if they want to see more pictures, whatever. So that's what agents do. That's how they get your stuff out there. So putting you in is literally submitting you for a job.
So when you say they won't put you in, Atlanta agents won't put you in to like the networks? I mean, the casting networks?
No, they will. Yeah, no, every single agent will use the same sites basically to submit you for work. But if you're just getting started, then the first step for you would be self-submitting and registering on Actors Access and casting networks and learning how to use those sites, and just get really, really comfortable with that. And just, yeah, and start, and that's how you build your resume. Because if you're wondering if you need to get an agent, if you have credits, if you have good marketing materials, if you are flexible enough in your life to know, like to be able to show up, because your agent isn't going to want to know your work schedule. Like they're going to want to know if you're out of the country or you're at someone's funeral. But other than that, they're putting you in for work. So you have to be able to drop everything you're doing and go to that audition. Because what a lot of actors don't know is that it took them 100 submissions to get you that one self-tape request. So and then even another 100 to get you a booking. So it's incredibly valuable to get those coming in. So they don't, so they need to know that you're completely committed. It can't be a hobby. You can't have an agent and it be a hobby. It has to be, this is one of my jobs. Yeah. So it has to be treated very, very professionally. I love all these.
If you make their job easy,
Mhm.
then that helps them push you more.
Oh, if you listen, if you want to
Yes.
get an agent like tomorrow, oh my gosh, if you come in and you're like fully developed marketing package for them ready to go, they're like, yes, I can sell that. And boom, and they're off to the races and they get so excited. But there's a lot of things that go into that. So we could do a whole thing on just how to get an agent. It's tricky. And sometimes, and if you feel like your agent's ignoring you, get new headshots. They'll probably get really excited about that because they go, ooh, this is good. Photographers, listen, Agent Atlanta. Do you think it's necessary to get personality headshots at some point? Headshots in a nurse's uniform? Yeah, so we kind of talked about that. Yes, so the nurse thing, more so if you have nursing experience. If you have nursing experience, awesome. That'll get you on set doing background or other things, even it's good. Yes, if you have, especially if you have nursing experience, that's really, really good. I don't think it's necessarily important just from a marketing standpoint, unless you go out for a lot of nurse roles, then absolutely. We're going to get feedback on my headshots. Yeah. Feedback on headshots. I mean, we could talk to me after. Happy to chat. I do actor coaching. I'm not going to like push that or pitch that. I'm not here for that, but I'm here for y'all. I'm available to help any way I can. But if you want like a sit down one-on-one, we can schedule that. I'm happy to do that. Also, if you're an agent, it's normal to get an agent and not get a booking for a long time. That is also very common. So it might not even be you. It might just be things are slow, or maybe the materials aren't working, or maybe they're not, I don't know. There's a lot of stuff that goes into it. For speaking roles, should you submit based on the age you look and play, or do you have to specifically be the age listing? Okay. That's a great question. No, nobody cares how old you actually are unless it says it's an adult role. You have to be over 18, period. No exceptions unless you're like in New York. Well, there's like 17 to play or 16 to play 18, but you have to have like a legal document for that. So generally speaking, 18 above. If it's alcohol, it has to be 25 and above. If it's a commercial, if you're selling alcohol in a commercial, you have to be at least 25. But just be really honest with yourself. So if you're 40 and you think that you can play 21, you probably can't. So just be really honest with yourself and make sure that your pictures reflect that. And I don't care how old you are. I cast people outside of that age range all the time. In fact, casting isn't supposed to ask how old you are. You don't actually have to tell anybody how old you are. So don't let people put you in a weird spot.
Yeah, there's a difference between actual age and playing age, isn't there?
Exactly.
What, 5 to 10 plus or minus? Would that be on camera?
Absolutely. Yeah. For camera, it's different for stage, obviously, but if it's camera work, then it's better for it to be tighter. Most people have about a 9 to 10 year playing range, I would say, pretty easily. So it's all
came up and spoke
different in my voiceover world.
Oh, that's a whole other world. Way wide range.
You spoke before, and you talk, or that class is up on the Film Bar YouTube page, I believe. But she goes into what a proper listing should look like as well. So, I mean, you can talk about it again, but it doesn't say, it says an age range or something like that. It does not usually a specific thing.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, it's usually just playable age. So
Yeah.
don't. Yeah, you don't have to ever put your age in there, and you should never. And you really shouldn't put your age in there unless it's 18 or over 18. And I would say, yeah, over 18, under 18, that's perfectly fine. If we don't have scenes to put in demo reels, should we film our own acting clips for them? That's a really good question. I'm actually about to move into that. Are we good to talk about self-tapes? Does that sound
Yep.
like
I was just going to say we should move on to that.
I think so too, because I could talk about headshots for a long time. Sorry if I'm getting rambly. All right, let's talk about, yes, let's talk about self-tapes.
Slating.
People have a really strong love-hate relationship with self-tapes. It's incredibly exciting to get one. For anybody who's new, a self-tape is when you get a message from a casting director or a director, or producer, or friend, or your rep, and they say, hey, you have an audition. These are the sides, which is the section of the script that is just for you, that you're going to be, creating your audition from. It's usually a couple pages. If it's non-union, they might get you with like 6, 8. Like they're not supposed to do that. It's supposed to be just a few pages. But and then you get a reader, or it's a monologue, and you do your thing by yourself at your house or in a studio with people who help you with that. So you don't have to pay anybody to do a self-tape for you. It should we expect it to be in your house, possibly on your phone. It's okay. For people that really don't know what I'm talking about, you can even, as long as your phone's this way, oh, that's weird, this way, on a tripod or a shelf or books or whatever, and you can get a blank wall behind you or something really non-distracting, you're fine. There's beautiful cameras and lights and all these cool things we can do, but at the end of the day, it's not necessarily going to mean you're going to get the job. But there's little things you can do to set yourself up to appear to be very professional. And hey, Rhodes.
So in going through all the submissions,
yeah,
that we got, I don't know that it should have played, but it is nicer and easier if they have a microphone, and it's not boomy, reverby, or hard to hear.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's something that you recommend to them or not, but
yeah, that's a really
sound is something that just personally
yeah, sound is important. I see it both ways. I mean, the mic is great. I don't think it's a deal breaker as long as you're not in an echoey space. So if you're in a room with carpet and curtains or furniture, as long as it's not distracting,
yeah,
it's okay. It would be lovely to have a mic, but a lot of people don't have mics and fancy editing equipment. So that's definitely something to put on like the list to do. But I would say if that's something that you're actively auditioning for, like TV commercials and stuff, like probably a good idea. But if you're just getting started, or it's not, I've seen all different types of stuff. I think a lot of it has to do with the environment that you're in. Yeah. But I just saw a self-tape where somebody was in the bathroom and they didn't have a mic, and it was kind of, but the scene also was in a bathroom. So I was like, I don't hate that, but it was just, I don't know. There's rules and you can break them sometimes and it works, but it's always a little bit of a risk. But self-tapes are interesting, but just a general rule, usually you're framed from like the ribs up. Your main focus is always your face. It's always your eyes. So I want to be able to see your eyes. Like I'm kind of shadowed, like my lighting is not good in here. A ring light is okay. I recommend either dimming it or putting one of those covers on it, because then it can give you those, like, it can really light you up in a kind of a crazy way. If you're doing a scene with somebody, well, I'll back up. Your slate is always straight to camera. The camera is your friend. The camera is casting, and it's you as yourself, and you're just like, hi. And then you do the slate the way they've asked you to do it. And then when you go into the scene, you just, I recommend cutting and then going into it. Give yourself a breather so you're not doing one of those, and now I'm acting. Like, just cut it and then splice it or whatever, or just pause. Like, it doesn't have to be a whole thing. And please don't say scene. Like, you don't have to do that. I don't know why people do that sometimes. And then you go into the scene, and then really the thing is, if it's like, say you're in a scene you're talking to somebody, that person is like right here. So your eye line should be just to the right or to the left of the camera. You're not talking into the camera unless they say specifically to talk into the camera. So even if you're driving in a car and the person is beside you, we're not doing this, because then I need to see this. It's a can you act, not can you film a movie by yourself in your bedroom, you know? So there's a lot of good resources on YouTube, you guys, about self-taping. But keep it simple, like definitely keep it simple. But eyeline is so important. If it's comedy or theater, I would recommend doing more of a 3/4 thing, because it's more it tends to be more movement. If it's film, it's pretty tight. It's a pretty tight setup. And then there's just a couple like technical things with like pacing and all that. But have a reader. Like if you don't have a reader, record yourself and then talk to yourself. But don't just do it like a monologue if there's another person in the room. There's just, I mean, like this is all kind of general, you know, general stuff. If you don't have a solid wall or something and you want to use a backdrop, I personally, I really like a muted, like black is too much, white is too much. The lime green thing looks like you're doing like effects or whatever. I would literally do navy or gray. That's my personal preference, If it's a commercial thing, or if you have blue eyes, I love a bright blue backdrop. It's really quite awesome. You need to test out some different stuff. I had a client who had really ruddy complexion and he couldn't be on anything blue because it would change the way he looked on camera. So we had to do gray for him and it cooled everything off. So just find something that works really well for you, that you look like the best version of you on camera. But fabric store is great. You can use a bed sheet, you know, it doesn't have to be fancy. What's up, Rose?
Does this play the same way as when I sent out notes to people I'm going to interview for video, and I say, don't wear noisy jewelry, don't wear anything shiny, don't wear solid colors, don't wear any tight patterns or anything like that. Is all that the same?
For the most part, yes. Yeah. Definitely nothing shiny. I don't recommend what I'm wearing right now. This is very obnoxious to look at. I'm sorry you guys have to deal with stripes today because it can moray on camera. Yes, typically what looks best is a solid colored top, like solid colored, nothing crazy, busy buttons, you know, just keep it simple. That's a good general rule. If you're doing something that is like you're playing a waiter, like if you have something to put on, it's like plain white t-shirt and like a little, you know, apron, that's cool, but it's not the most important thing. It's a bonus, but it should at least feel like it could exist in the world of this character. Don't wear anything distracting. Don't wear a logo. Don't wear, unless it makes sense for that character, just play it super safe on wardrobe. Most actors have a section of their closet that's just auditioning clothes because they would never actually wear that in real life because it's too bright or too corporate or too boring or whatever. So just have a little section of stuff ready to go. Something that's really hard to wrinkle, like just keep it easy for yourself. Yeah, just keep it easy. But if you have time, you know, if it's a really eccentric character or somebody who's like going to a club and you have some like crazy glasses or whatever that you want to play with, like have fun with it, but it shouldn't steal the show. Like you are the focus of the show. Gosh, there's so much stuff I could talk about for self-taping. I'm gonna see if we don't have scenes. Yeah. And there's some technical stuff, you guys, for self-taping. If it's commercials, everything is going to feel very precise, very polished. If you're like a spokesperson, or it's going to feel if it's like a very relatable type of character, then again, like you just want to bring as much as yourself to it. Like you really want to be yourself, and don't drive yourself crazy with, well, what does the director want? What are they trying to do? They don't know what they want. Maybe they do, but they just want to see somebody like bring some life into it. And just that authenticity is so wonderful when you find that. Yes, Rhodes.
Sorry.
No, it's great.
When you're submitting, is there any reason to submit early, or if you get like just barely the deadline, is that okay still too, or what?
I feel like I feel like you're asking this question because you know the answer, because it's such a good question. Submit early. Please submit early. The chances of us watching the whole tape all the way through is early. If everybody's coming at the last possible second, you're probably going to be seen, but they might only watch like 5 seconds of your tape because, or they've already cast it. Because if somebody has a really good tape, like I'm working through some tapes right now, and like I'm so hoping I find the right person in those first like 10 tapes. I just don't want to watch 100 tapes. So I'm like really invested, and I'm like looking and I'm watching and I'm sending notes of like, hey, can we try it this way? And I'm getting tapes back, and it's this really cool thing. But people that are sending at the last second, I'm like, I don't have time to send notes, and I don't have time, and it's just everybody's a lot more stressed at that point. So it's just a compressed process. So yeah, if you get in early, your agent will love you, casting will love you. Get it in early. Yeah, and here's a fun little thing I wanted, and this is the same spiel I told my clients in New York. If you get a self-tape for somebody and you're like, I am so wrong for this. I was like, why did they even submit me? I don't even know. Instead of being completely inauthentic to yourself, understand that this is your introduction, and casting might know you already, which is why they called you in, because they like you and they know you already, or they don't know you and they're curious about you. So if you just show up as yourself and do it the way you would do it and don't even worry about what they're doing, they're going to remember that. And they might go, oh, they're totally wrong for this, but they're going to think of you for something else because you've showed up as yourself, So there's something, just don't think it's a waste of time, because it's not a waste of time. Like casting remembers people that they like. And, even if they're a little different or offbeat or whatever, like they're like, oh, they're really interesting. And I've had clients get called in for stuff I didn't even submit them for, because I didn't, because somebody remembered them from something else they did. I don't know. So, but that was a great question, Rhodes. Yeah, if you can get in early, everybody will love you. We talked about that.
I just got distracted by two things actually. But did you talk about with the self tapes the whole business of how off book you need to be?
Mm-hmm. I didn't mention that yet. Cool. So most of the time, I think they're actually required to say this. Artist is not required to have lines memorized, so they say it in there, and it's a courtesy. It's a courtesy because it's your time and it's your energy. So technically, no, you don't have to be off book. Should you be off book? Yes, as much as you possibly can.
Right. Yeah.
And if you have to prioritize what part to be off book, the first part, because 5 seconds in, they're going to decide if they're going to keep watching or not. So I would memorize the first page if you can, and then go back into the text if you need to. And they will forgive you. People have stuff to do. You know what I mean? So it's not a deal breaker, but yeah, definitely
the whole business between the reality and what the union or the contract or best practice suggests. I just wanted to take on
absolutely. Yeah, no, it's definitely best practice to come in off book. It stands out. It makes a big impact. Also because we can see your eyes and all that. We're in it with you, and it's night and day.
I've been known to take bits of the script up on polls.
Hey, whatever works. Yeah, and it's okay to glance in and then kind of glance out, and a lot of it too is I would rather actors read their line and then listen and react to the other person than be off book and then go, okay, and now it's my line. You know what I mean? It's because that's what we're looking for, is that connection to you and the X on the back of your wall, or your friend who's reading with you and all that stuff. And if you have a reader like who's not a working actor, or even if they are an actor, tell them to chill out. Like tell them to back way off from the camera so they're not louder than you, and tell them to underact. Like they should give you what you need, but they shouldn't be driving the scene or pushing you or none of that stuff.
There's going to be another question about how good does the reader need to be?
Not very good. I mean, like, they can't be bad. It's more of a pacing thing. So the pacing has to be right. And I don't know if you guys are super familiar with this. I think instinctually actors know this, but when it's TV, it's very clippy and it moves. That's not the moment to milk a moment or have a beat. That's something else. But TV moves very quickly. Film, you can sit in it and you can linger and you can add all this unspoken dialogue. People really love that because it just takes longer. Commercial is also moves quickly because they have 30 seconds to tell a whole story. So just keep in mind when you're taping is that as long as your reader understands pacing, if they can give you something, but please don't have them do an accent, don't have them yell at you, don't have them they don't need to do any of that. They're just there to keep you on the right track. We're not really listening to them, we're listening to you. So yeah. So they don't have to be great, but just they can't be bad, like too bad. How would you suggest handling blocking that's written in the script that involves other people? Like character stands up, hugs other character. Ignore it. Honestly, that's not really for you. That's just in the script and they didn't want to take it out. So at the beginning of the scene, the sitting down from standing or standing from sitting, yeah, ignore that. It's in there it's especially if you're taping. I don't want to see your whole living room. I just want to see your face. So if you're sitting, maybe there's just a shift and then your eye line moves because the person's moved, or just find, or maybe if you're like sitting at a table, instead of sitting at a table, you're like, now I have a cup in this, just find something else to do that feels right, but it is not important. We do not care. We don't care about that at all.
Is that true of like business as well? You're talking about cups and,
yeah.
car or...
Yeah. Yes. Okay. So cups are okay. A phone is okay. Usually like a pad, paper, pen is okay. But if there's any other crazy, like if someone's cooking dinner or whatever, like maybe just keep it out of frame. Like, oh, she's cooking an egg. I don't want to see the frying pan. Like keep the action there, connect to something, but you don't really need it. But to me, I'd rather see someone drink out of this than like mime it. That's distracting. So just try to keep it simple. But you can ignore a lot of those directions. It gets tricky when there's like a kiss or like someone gets punched in the face. Like those are tricky. There are ways we can handle it, but that's yeah. Just let me know if you guys are really curious about that. So you can just glance down at your script while filming a self-tape. Yes, you can glance down. I would try to be as stealthy as possible as you can. Like if my script is here and I'm listening to somebody, I might just look down for a minute and use it as opposed to this business. Just try to keep it, just be cool and not be super distracting. What if you don't have a reader or somebody in the room? Yeah. So some casting will offer Zoom auditions sometimes. Somebody else can Zoom in with you. Just don't record it over Zoom because the film quality is bad. But you can record it on your phone and just have it, or not on your phone. I guess if you're using your phone to record, you can use your own voice and time it up. It's hard. You can get a friend on the phone somewhere and have them read with you. I really recommend finding your people. And so you have a group of people like this group where you can call in favors and help each other out when you have a self-tape. But so just I would develop that I would start offering to read with other people now before you have, and then that way you're kind of building that, you're practicing, you're experiencing that with them. And then that way, when you ask them, it feels like, yeah, sure. But it's a team sport, you guys, for sure. It's hard to do this in a vacuum. And a lot of actors have, and they do, and then they burn out because you're just by yourself filming tapes in your bedroom at 2 a.m. because it's due tomorrow, so it's a lot, but it's also a really cool opportunity to practice your art.
So like for me, I'm kind of starting out and I don't know, if anyone else is kind of in the same boat, but like I'm transferring into like this world from like corporate. Like I work a corporate job, and I kind of like something that you said kind of stuck with me about, wanting to be flexible. I guess that's why, like, we're the trope of like, actors working part-time jobs being waiters or like bartenders. They need to be flexible. So I guess, have you had experience, with people that are in situations where they don't have as flexible of a role, and like, have you seen that like be a successful way to kind of get into
Yeah.
acting? I don't know if my question makes sense.
Yeah, no, that's a totally great question. I'm a big fan of creating sustainability. So having a corporate job is not a problem yet. Most actors, 80% of their job or 90% of their job is just self-taping and auditioning. So when you actually book something, that's what PTO is for. That's what sick days are for, and it's the stuff that you would be initially booking is a one-day co-star or a one-day commercial. You're not going away for like 6 months. You know what I mean? If you're doing some like indie stuff, that's tricky because that's a lot of it's unpaid, low paid, crazy hours. Like you're giving up your, lot of hours of your time to do that. Can that be incredibly valuable sure, but I would be really careful about overcommitting to stuff like that. I would do some maybe unpaid stuff since you're just starting out. Do it on the weekends. Do it like when you can, and to really save up those PTO days for when you have a paid opportunity. But a lot of for you is going to be like juggling, memorizing stuff, and self-taping at home. So you're just going to be getting really good at self-taping, and you will have time to figure it out. It's incredibly rare for somebody to jump into it and immediately start booking work. It just doesn't really happen, honestly. So you have time, so you don't have to worry about that right now. But it's great that you have. And tell me again where you are, Danielle. I'm
in Greenville, South Carolina.
Greenville? Yeah. So if you were in a major market and it was like you were in LA, I would be like, you need to be in it would be a little bit more consuming because they have like open calls and you have to in-person commercial auditions, things that are very disruptive. But I don't see any reason why you can't pursue that while paying your bills. I think it's great. Yeah. Hey, Rhodes.
So if it's something that you really think you fit and something really important, a bigger role or something, should you get director friend, other actor friends, rehearse it with them, practice and stuff like that beforehand, or just give it your best go? And
as far as self-taping, I'm a really big fan of taping the rehearsal, because I can tell when you practice it 20 times and you're sending me the 20th take. I can tell every time. I would rather you miss a line or flub it or anything and just it be really real, like just kind of raw. Like that's so much more interesting to me. If it's like for a film project, but yeah. But if you feel like, oh, this is a big one, like, yeah, call your friends, get in a studio, get a really good reader, get a really good lighting setup, like make it feel special, like don't make yourself crazy. But if you have those resources, that's awesome. If you have that, that's phenomenal. Just, you really have to pick and choose what that is. I would be like, if it's like a network thing or whatever, like, yeah, let's do it, but if it's like a small thing, I wouldn't put in a whole lot of time around it. But yeah, if it's like a film, like have fun with it, like kind of I would tape the rehearsal. Really, especially if you're in a studio, guys, if you show up, be off book, be completely off book and get ready to play. That's what it's there for. It's not like they're not there to run lines with you. Unless they're there to run lines with you, if that's part of the deal. But typically, if you're paying a studio or have friends that have lives and stuff, you want to respect their time, show up, be ready, and get ready to play and make some cool stuff. So here we go. A question came in: when and how do we get signed with SAG or become union? So this is an interesting question. So SAG is designed to protect actors and like working actors so they can get stuff like health insurance, and there's regulations and it's guidelines and things like that. When you are starting out, SAG is not the goal. SAG opens doors, but it also limits you a lot based on where you live. So we live here And there isn't a lot of SAG people here because if I was a SAG actor, I would be unable to work on non-union projects. And so I would go SAG when you absolutely have to go SAG, when they will send you letters and they're like, you have to join because it's expensive. If you're not living in a major market, I don't see why you need to be SAG, honestly. I have friends who went SAG very early in their career doing background, and it was a massive weight. It was a giant hurdle that they had to like they didn't work for years. It was awful. So just be careful. SAG is, I'm not saying anything wrong with SAG. I mean, SAG has had it's challenges. It's tricky. They had a lot they had to go through with strikes and COVID and all this crazy stuff. But yeah, that's probably not something that you need to worry about right now. But the way you become SAG is you work on SAG projects and you collect points, vouchers, whatever. And then once you've worked on enough of these specific projects, then SAG is like, you need to be SAG now. The way you work as a non-union on a SAG set is they do this thing called Taft-Hartley, where they're basically paying the union and saying, no, we had to hire this non-union person instead of a SAG person because they were specifically correct for this thing. So when SAG projects are supposed to only hire SAG people, non-union people work on SAG projects. So technically you have more flexibility as a non-union person than you do as a union person. So just be careful, don't rush into it. But if you have the chance to do it and you're booking and you're ready to rock and roll, then by all means. But I just wouldn't rush into it. That's all. Yeah. Really good questions, you guys. Man, it's been over an hour. I feel like I got a little rambly. I did have one question come in earlier that I wanted to mention briefly. When you if you are so lucky to get a call back for something, the question was, do I do the same thing I did on tape? Or what do I what's the expectation there with the callback? And it really does depend on who's calling you in. But the good news is if you get a callback, they already like you. They already think you're talented. So you don't have to prove that. It's usually two things. It's a vibe check. Is this person cool or are they a crazy person? Are they professional? Can they show up? Are they gonna just roll out of bed and be like, hey, so it's a vibe check. And it's also, how do they take direction? So typically I say when you come into it, kind of do the same thing. If they're like, hey, we're just going to do the same thing we did last time, do it the same way as closely as feels right as what you did in the tape, because that is what got you in the room. And then be fully prepared to do something totally different. Just be very open. They might have you improv. They might have you do it just a completely different inner whatever, okay, now do it angry, and you're like, what? But just be ready to take direction and don't ask too many questions. Don't psych yourself out, and just be really relaxed, because they can smell that, ooh, pick me energy. Just be oh yeah, I do this all the time, just be happy to be there and know that they like you, and you don't have anything to prove at that point. Just be cool. Because you already booked the room, and that's a really big deal. So feel really good about that. How do you balance giving opportunities to actors you already trust versus taking a chance on new people? Oh man. Okay, so yeah, this is a real thing. So I just had a shoot I worked on that actually filmed today in Charlotte, and it was 15 people, and it was all background roles, so kind of like a low pressure situation. I had to fill, so the client picked half of them, and then they're like, you pick the rest. And I was like, cool, because that doesn't happen, by the way. Casting directors, we don't actually get to choose who gets to work. That's very rare. I just have very cool clients that trust me, and that's unusual. Usually the director picks it, and I can push and pitch, but they're gonna decide. So don't ever be mad at me if you don't book, it's not my fault, I promise. But I got to choose 8 people, and you better believe I picked the people that I knew that were going to show up and be professional and be cool on set. That, that's exciting for me to pick people that I trust and I love and respect. I am really excited to see a new face come in. There's always a little bit of uncertainty sometimes about, like, sure enough, I booked a couple people that I'd never worked with before, and I was really excited about them, and they were late today, and I had to hear about that. So I remember everything. Everything gets tracked. If someone's late or someone's rude to a PA or somebody doesn't bring the shirt they said they were, like, all of that is tracked. Casting remembers everything, you guys. Everything is important, and everybody talks to everybody. So I cannot stress enough being professional. That's it. Like, don't have a bad day, please. Like, just be cool. So it's tough to balance. I am personally kind of obsessed with, like, just casting a really wide net and working with anybody that really wants to work. I want to set them up for success, but I mean, everybody has not like favorites, but people that you just know are going to do a really good job. So those are people that I will send an avail check to, even if they didn't submit, or like they're kind of top of mind. So that's not unusual, but that's why when I'm working with somebody new, I like to put them in something that feels not super, super high pressure at first, just for their own sake and for mine, so we can kind of grow together and kind of nourish that relationship. But it's just, yeah, it's definitely a balance, because I can't send the same 20 people to every, I need to, I'm required to send them new options. Like, if they're like, oh, I've seen these people before for the past 4 jobs, what else you got? So I do like to see new faces, but yeah, man, casting remembers you. So if you're awesome on set, whether it's paid or not paid, people will remember you. They will respect you. They will call you in for stuff if you can just be awesome to work with. So, yeah.
How can people connect with you, reach out to you, social media?
Yeah, I'm old school, guys. Email is so great. It helps me stay on track. Amy@browercasting.com. You can reach out on Facebook. I will try to respond in a timely manner.
I'll do that.
But yeah, whatever. But yeah, feel free.
Email her.
Email is great, because then I won't like accidentally leave you on red, because that feels terrible. But I'm here for you guys. If y'all have questions about anything, if you want to submit for something. So I think people submit for, okay, really quick. If you want to work with me, if you don't work for me, if you want to work with me, there's a couple things you can do. If you go to the website, there is a sign-in thing where you can register for a database. You guys are probably the first to know this, but I am completely redoing that. My system has outgrown itself. And if you've submitted for me before, a lot of it is email, where you have to email me your pictures, and everything's on Facebook, you guys. You can find every single open call is on Facebook. So if you want to work with me, it's no secret how to do it. It's there, and I tell you exactly how to do it. Just make sure your pictures are good to go. I have a whole pinned post about what is expected for photos. A lot of these jobs are local and decent pay, and there isn't a big crazy audition process, because a lot of it's featured non-speaking stuff. So it's a really good place to get started. I'm not working in these, I'm not casting these massive things in other markets. I am working on a feature right now, but this is a very different process. But for my commercial clients, even if you're new, you've got a really good shot of being seen. So you can register on the website. When I have the new database live, you'll be able to create a free profile where you can update pictures and all that, and it will help me find you very quickly. And I can actually reach out to you instead of you reaching out to me for everything, where I can just click a button and you get an avail check, which is awesome. So please keep an eye out for that. But in the meantime, email is great. Please watch the Facebook group for anything coming up that fits your, thumbs up, that fits you. And I'm super excited about working with local talent, you guys. I just absolutely adore you guys. I could not do my job if there wasn't talent right here. It would just not be possible. So I'm eternally grateful. Yeah. But yeah, anyway, back to you, Rhodes. Unless anybody has any other questions, I'm just thankful I got to hang out with you guys. Thanks for letting me ramble for an hour.